You know, Dave, we haven't done magic item video for Ranger
If you
yet.
play a ranger and go Beastmaster, can your beast also attune magic items? I've let a paladin mount and do it with a circle of blasting in one of my games.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds.
Now, let's get wild with some Rangers.
All right, first off, before we can discuss, magic items for a ranger and, maybe what's the best magic item, I think we're going to go with more thematic items in this case. What is it that rangers do or excel at?
Well, there's a number of things that are going to factor into these kinds of decisions and choices. They are a warrior, they're a martial class, but they're kind of like that skirmisher or archer. So like they can bounce into either melee or ranged, and I've seen rangers do both.
And they're not as tanky as some of the other warrior classes. True, they're also half casters, and they're experts when it comes to exploration for the most part.
When we start looking at all of these things, you have to take each of these aspects into an account.
True, but you know what you're probably going to do a lot when you play a ranger?
You're going to explore that map, aren't you?
You're going to explore the map, explore the wilderness, and boy, do we have a tool for you DMs. Dungeon Fog, the sponsor of this video, awesome mapping tool that makes mapping so much easier. If it's like drawing on graph paper. And when I was a kid, it gives me that old school feeling, but it's super intuitive. It's easy to use. Not only that, they have a free license, so you can go check it out. You should go over there, sign up for the free license, see if you like it, decide if you want to buy it or not. I love using it for my games. There will be a link down in the description below.
All right, so now let's take a look at each of these elements for just a moment and talk about, why this is, what is important to a ranger.
Yeah, so, and also in conjunction, like how we're going to figure out magic items for it too. Like we already stated, it's a warrior, martial class, skirmisher, archer. They're a little squishier than some of the other tankier characters because they can't wear heavy armor. If you're, a lot of times, a lot of folks like to play the Rangers dual wielding. So, both archer and a dual wielder, you're not going to be using a shield. That's going to take away from your armor class, which is already hurting because you can't wear heavy armor.
So like unless you go serious heavy on the decks, go with the dual wielder, fighting style, take that dual weapon feat to maximize everything that you can do. You are going to be sitting well behind the curve on armor class, and that is going to hurt you. And although you might have the same hit die as the fighter, chances are, because you're also using other skills, you might have a lower stat threshold so that you're better at all of the skills that you're using. So your con mod is going to be, potentially lower as well.
Well, and it's a half caster that relies on wisdom, right? So we already said, like, if you're relying on dex for your armor class, then you're probably going to rely on it for your attacks as well, which you can do, thankfully. But if you want to be good at casting spells, you need that wisdom modifier. Depending on what kind of beastmaster you're going to play, you might need that wisdom modifier. So that might stick you, fighting with a shillelagh and, having to use your fighting style to take, druidic warrior, and but that's also going to hurt you in some other areas. And if you're going into melee or any kind of warrior, really, you want to have that higher constitution. Having played quite a few characters that are kind of squishy when it came to the hit points, even if you're an archer or a ranged character, you can kind of stay out of the fray. When you do get hit, oh man, do you feel it so hard?
Absolutely. But we also said that they are experts at exploration, especially with Tasha's, them getting at first level and expertise if you go with those optional rules. But they do get skills. They are naturally used to being out in nature. So they are better at those kinds of things. They get the kind of skills that are used for exploring, useful out in the wilderness and the terrain. So that's why we kind of linked that aspect in there as well.
How is it you like to play your rangers? Do you go ranged? Do you go melee? Dritz Duerda knockoff? Is that your style? What kind of magic items do you think are the best? What have you used? What have you found useful? Let's get that discussion started down in the comments before we go and give our list of thematic ranger magic items.
And if you want to help Nerdarchy appease the YouTube algorithm, do the normal YouTube things like subscribing, tuning to that notification bell, liking, sharing, all the things.
Hey, real quick too, remember, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we drop a new Nerdarchy video over on the channel. So come on by and see what we got for you.
All right, so let's dive into our top 10 thematic magic items for the Ranger. So the first one that we've got up, and I don't think these are in any particular order. We've got the Boots of Elvenkind.
Okay, Rangers tend to be skill based. They tend to be stealthy, and that's what they're kind of known for. This is just doubling down on that.
Being able to just be stealthy and whatnot. That's going to help Rangers do the things that Rangers do.
So next up, we have the Amulet of Health. We just spent a lot of time talking about how they, have it to split between all their stats. They don't get to wear heavy armor. So anything that can boost your constitution up there and give you more hit points is just going to be helpful.
Next up, since we also started talking about, all those things that Rangers typically are doing, an animated shield will allow you to use both your hands, whether it be for drawing a bow or fighting with two weapons. The animated shield, is able to float out there and keep you safe, boost up that armor class.
Next up is Cloak of Elvenkind. See Boots of Elvenkind as to why, but only better.
A new favorite of mine, the Bag of Tricks, is basically, that insta animal companion. And, the fact that you can get 3 of them per day is pretty nice. And they're pretty varied, so you could have a lot of fun with it.
Next up, Bracers of Archery. The first benefit, making you proficient in bows. Nobody cares about that. We're a ranger. We live for the bow, right? We probably took the archery fighting style that gives us a +2 to hit. These are going to complement that with a +2 to damage. The archery, fighting style is such a great fighting style when it comes to any warrior. Really, that extra +2 to hit is a big deal.
But if you're using that bracer of archery, you know what you're probably going to want? A really nice bow. And I don't think there's a better bow out there than the Oath bow.
Yeah, you know what? You get to say, make cool sayings, and then you get to mark somebody, and then when you hit them, you do like an extra 3-8 points of damage. When you do, I mean, you really are swearing an oath of vengeance upon them. It gives you a little bit of those, paladin vengeance feels, except for you don't have to get real close to them. So next up, Weapon of Warning. Basically, it's very hard to surprise you and your party. Even if you're sleeping. So, to me, it just gives me all the Ranger feels.
Yeah, and, while it wasn't necessarily held by a Ranger in Lord of the Rings, I still love the fact that, when you've got, Sting glowing blue, it's like, all right, this is cool. And that's exactly what I think a Weapon of Warning really does. So, to me, I totally dig it. But next up, a Ring of Spell Story. We know that Rangers, as being half-casters, don't get access to as much magic as they would probably like. So whether you're just adding in your own spells to get some extra spell slots from those days off, or, you're using spells that are being cast into the ring on days off from other companions in your adventuring party, it's useful. I love it for just about any character, but I think it's super useful for a Ranger.
And then we got, for number 10, the Alchemy Jug. The great thing about the Alchemy Jug is you can just make stuff with it. It doesn't require attunement for this item. Acid, poison, honey, mayonnaise, water. Like, it's the ultimate utility item. And it's also one of those items where, what are my players going to come up with? What are they going to do with it? They're going to produce gallons of oil. What are they going to do with that oil? What are they going to burn down? So I just like it thematically because it's just a great utility item.
Yeah, I this is one that I put on the list. I found them very useful, and for creative players who have one of these, they're gonna find ways that these things are gonna happen. Like, oh, you know what? I want to dump all of this mayonnaise on a monster. What is that gonna do? That's hilarity. Oh, you dump all of the oil on the monster and then set them on fire. Oh, crud. It's useful. We're going to get honey. We're going to get mead. We're going to get wine. We're going to get water. All these things that can be consumed when you're out in the wilderness. Again, super, super useful.
What it really sounds like, Ted, is you're going to get wasted.
Well, if you're playing a game where resources are scarce because you're not in civilization, typically where you're finding Rangers, this is the go-to thing. And if you've got some water skins, you could totally be like, all right, I'll put this, I'm gonna make this for the day, and then I'm gonna pour that into my wine skins or water skins and have it for later.
So next up, we've got a bonus one going beyond 10, and that is the Saddle of the Cavalier. It's great for Beastmasters that are small and you want to ride their beast companion around, slap that on them. And it is going to make you better at being a mounted combatant.
It's a minor thing, it's a bonus thing, uh, but it is super cool. And I've seen plenty of small race rangers that are riding their animal companion. I've currently got two rangers in one of my home games. I've got a gnome and a grung, and their companions are medium size, so they totally every so often just kind of hop on their mounts and hop on their beast companions as mounts, and off they go.
And I've had a Beastmaster goblin in my game that will ride their spider, and they did actually have one of these saddles, so it keeps you from being knocked out of it. Gives disadvantage to hit your beast, keeps it alive a little longer. So all these are great things. So if you want another video where we talk about wilderness warriors and magic items, then check out the 5 best D&D magic items for barbarians.
And if you'd like to help Nerdarchy keep creating videos like this, then head over to Patreon and join us over there.
As a thank you, you'll receive monthly rewards like 5e content for players and DMs alike, a chance to game with us, and more.
So until next time,
Stay
stay
nerdy.
nerdy.